The galaxy was calm for many years, or at least it looked calm from far away. Trade ships moved from one star system to another, alien diplomats argued in bright meeting halls, and the Galactic Council believed everything was under control. But trouble was growing in the dark places of space, far away from their shiny stations, and no one noticed the danger until it was too late. It started on a quiet morning at the edge of the Karath Empire. A listening post floating near an empty star suddenly detected something strange. At first, the officers thought it was only a meteor, but the signal grew bigger, stronger, and then hundreds of red dots appeared together on their screens. They did not understand what it was. Then the station's windows filled with light. The sky outside turned white for a second, and the listening post disappeared by the time the council learned about it. 3 more systems had gone silent. Entire colonies were gone. No messages, no survivors, only broken ships and burning planets. The attackers moved fast, like shadows crossing the night. They did not send warnings. They did not speak. They only destroyed. Panic spread through council space. Worlds locked down. Fleets prepared for battle. But no one knew who the enemy really was. Some said they were machines. Some said they were ancient creatures. Some whispered they were demons from a forgotten age. Every theory sounded possible, and every theory sounded wrong. When the first real survivor report came in, the council held an emergency meeting. The survivor was an old alien officer named Syrian, rescued from a damaged escape pod. His ship had been one of the first to face the enemy. He was weak, but he managed to speak. They came in the dark, Syrian whispered, shaking. They came like a storm with no sound. Our lasers passed through them. Our shields broke in seconds. We called for help, but no one came. They destroyed everything, everything. The council members leaned closer. Who are they? Asked one nervous ambassador. Syrian looked down, his hands trembling. The Virkin. They have returned. At the sound of that name, half the room froze. The Virkin were a species spoken of only in old stories, tall, armored, ruthless, born for war. A race so violent that even the strongest empires feared them. Everyone thought they had disappeared thousands of years ago, but now they were back. Fear grew across the room. If the Virkin truly returned, then every world was in danger. The ambassadors started arguing, shouting over each other, calling for stronger fleets, safer borders, evacuation plans. But it did not matter. The Virkin moved faster than any plan they made. Another signal arrived during the meeting. The Kaitai system was now under attack. Their military commander cried for urgent help. Their capital moon was falling. They needed backup. One ambassador stood and shouted, "Send everything we have." But the council had a problem. Their fleets were too far away. Their ships were too slow. And their soldiers were not ready for such a brutal enemy. They needed help from someone powerful, someone dangerous, someone who could fight without fear, someone who lived on a world so deadly that surviving there was already a kind of training for war. There was only one species like that. Humans. Deathworlders. The council hesitated. Humanity had a strange reputation. They came from Earth, a planet full of storms, beasts, poisons, infections, and violent climates. Humans grew strong because they had to survive everything their world threw at them. They were adaptable, stubborn, unpredictable. Some species admired them. Others feared them. Calling the humans meant bringing chaos into the war. But not calling them meant losing the war completely. In the end, the council had no choice. A message was sent to Earth's defense network. Council forces under attack by Virkin. We request immediate reinforcement. Highest priority. No one expected humans to respond so quickly. But only 11 minutes passed before Earth answered. Transmission received. Stand by for assistance. Deathworlder response teams are en route. The ambassador stared at the message in disbelief. Humans were already moving, already preparing, already launching ships. In the Kaitai system, the battle was almost over. Fire spread across the capital moon. Alien civilians ran through broken streets as Virkin soldiers marched forward, their armor glowing with heat. Kaitai defenders fell back again and again. Their last defensive line was collapsing. Their commander thought it was the end. He gave the order to prepare evacuation. Then a new sound appeared in the sky. A deep, thunderous vibration that grew louder and louder. The Virkin paused, confused. The defenders looked up in fear and hope. A bright tear opened in the sky as space distorted. A massive ship emerged, black metal shining like a blade. It was human. The first Deathworlder cruiser had arrived. More followed behind it, fast ships, heavy ships, troop carriers, engines burning bright like fire in the night. Thousands of human soldiers prepared for combat. Their armor looked rough, scratched, worn, as if they had survived 100 battles already. Their helmets glowed with cold blue lights. The Verkin turned toward the new threat. The humans loaded their weapons. The war was no longer one dash-sided dot. Humanity had entered the fight. The human cruiser hung in orbit like a giant steel predator. Its engines still glowed from the jump, leaving bright trails across the sky. Below it, the burning moon reflected in its metal hull, making it look even more dangerous. For a moment, the battlefield fell silent, as if both sides needed time to understand what had just arrived. Inside the cruiser, Commander Elias Ward stood on the command bridge, hands behind his back. His body armor was thick, marked with deep scratches from old fights. His face was calm, but his eyes watched every detail on the screen with sharp focus. He had fought many enemies in his life, but the Verkin were something new, something old, something deadly. Enemy forces detected across the capital zone, said his tactical officer. Verkin armor is pushing toward civilian shelters. Elias nodded once. Deployment teams? Ready, sir. The commander took a slow breath. He had seen the council reports. Entire worlds destroyed. Fleets erased. People running with no one to protect them. Humanity could not ignore that. Not when danger was spreading across the galaxy. And not when innocent lives were dying. He raised his arm. Drop the squads. The order sent a tremor through the ship. Giant bays opened underneath the cruiser. Rows of human drop pods, each shaped like a metal spear, hung locked in place. Red lights flashed. A computer counted down. The soldiers inside checked their weapons one last time. When the countdown ended, the pods fired. Dozens at first, then hundreds. They shot downward like a storm of falling stars. The Khatai defenders looked up with wide eyes as streaks of burning fire tore through the sky. Even the Verkin paused for a brief second. It was not fear. The Verkin did not fear, but they recognized the challenge. The first pod hit the ground with a massive boom. Panels blew off. Smoke burst out. A human soldier stepped out of the fire, carrying a heavy rifle almost as tall as he was. More pods struck around him, shaking the ground and forcing dust into the air. One Khatai defender whispered, "Deathworlders." The rumors they had heard were true. Humans fought like their world taught them, direct, aggressive, fast, and brutally efficient. The Verkin charged forward, their armor glowing with a deep red heat. They fired weapons that screamed like angry beasts. Plasma bolts flew across the streets. But the humans were already moving. Their armor absorbed the first hits. They rolled behind debris, firing in controlled bursts. Their shots punched holes through Verkin soldiers, dropping them one by one. A squad of humans advanced in perfect formation, stepping over rubble as if the battle around them was only background noise. Their leader, Lieutenant Mara Holt, pointed forward with her sword-like blade. "Push them back," she said. Her squad followed without hesitation. Human discipline was something the Verkin had not seen for thousands of years. Above the battlefield, more drop pods arrived. Human ships redirected fire to weaken Verkin heavy units. The entire city shook as Deathworlders took position after position. But the Verkin refused to retreat. Their pride was too strong. Their blood a hot dot at the center of the city. Khatai civilians huddled together inside a broken hall. They had lost hope minutes ago when Verkin troops broke through the walls. But now they heard explosions outside. Different explosions. Human explosions. Bursts of sound that felt like thunder. A young Khatai child peeked out through a crack in the wall. Her large silver eyes widened when she saw a human soldier kneeling beside her. "Are you hurt?" the soldier asked gently. The child shook her head fast. "Stay behind me," the soldier said. "We'll get you all out." The humans helped evacuate the building. They carried the injured and guided the frightened. Even while fighting the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy, humans still made time to save strangers. It was a strange thing about their species' soft hearts inside warrior bodies. Commander Elias watched the live feed on his screen. His troops were holding the line, pushing forward, saving lives. But something was wrong. Verkin forces were not breaking. They were gathering. A tactical officer spoke urgently. "Sir, detecting movement. Large signatures. Heavy units approaching from the north." Elias checked the map. The Verkin were sending something big, something stronger than the soldiers already on the ground. "Bring in the armor division," he said. "Tell them to form a defensive wall." On the surface, the humans quickly adjusted. Tanks rolled out of landing craft. It was massive, larger than any ship the defenders had seen before. It looked like an ancient beast made of metal and fire. Its engines glowed with a deep purple light, and energy crackled around its outer plates. Smaller Vulcan ships gathered around it like loyal wolves guarding their alpha. Human cruisers and battleships formed a line to block the enemy's advance. Their engines roared. Their cannons charged. Light filled the empty void. The first volley shook space itself. Human and Vulcan weapons clashed like the storms colliding. Explosions spread across the battlefield of stars. Shattered metal drifted like burning snow. Human pilots maneuvered through dangerous patterns, dodging enemy fire with sharp, precise turns. Commander Elias stood at the front of the bridge, eyes locked on the massive Vulcan ship. His hands tightened behind his back. The power from that ship was incredible. If it reached the planet's surface, the city would be ash. His tactical officer shouted. The capital ship is charging its main cannon. Elias responded instantly. All ships, spread out. Prepare counterfire. A bright beam of energy burst from the Vulcan ship. It cut through space like a burning spear, slicing past human cruisers. A smaller ship was hit directly. It exploded into a bright flash, pieces scattering into the dark. The humans retaliated. Every Earth ship fired at the same time. The sky turned white with heat back on the surface. The battle grew even more intense. Mara's squad fought at close range now. Sparks flew as blades clashed. Plasma bolts lit the streets like lightning. Human soldiers moved fast and hit hard. Even the Keda defenders joined with newfound bravery, inspired by the humans by their side. But the Vulcan elites were merciless. They swung heavy weapons that knocked soldiers off their feet. Their armor resisted direct hits. Their movements were fast despite their size. Rylan, the elite commander, cut through a group of Vulcan soldiers with swift, brutal strikes. His armor smoked from heat damage. His visor flashed red warnings, but he didn't stop. A Vulcan elite charged him, swinging a burning blade. Rylan blocked it, sparks flying between them. The ground cracked under their feet as they pushed against each other. The Vulcan roared with ancient fury. Rylan answered with a single punch that dented the warrior's helmet. Before finishing him with a short blast to the chest, more Vulcan rushed forward. Rylan's voice echoed through comms. We need heavy support. Mara saw the danger rising. She moved toward her allies' flank, firing nonstop. But the enemy was too many, too strong, too fast. Behind her, the sky darkened again. Another group of Vulcan dropships entered the atmosphere. More troops, more weapons, more danger. And then the ground shook harder than before. Something enormous was landing nearby. Something powerful enough to make even the Vulcan pause. Humans turned their eyes in the same direction. The noise grew louder. Engines roared like thunder. A massive Earth warship descended into the city atmosphere, too large for normal deployment, too heavy for standard combat zones, the humans' last resort. The Vulcan hesitated for the first time. The humans stood taller. Help had arrived. But the real danger was still coming. The giant Earth warship broke through the clouds like a descending mountain. The air shook with the force of its engines. Dust and debris flew across the battlefield as soldiers shielded their faces. Even the Vulcans stopped their advance for a moment, surprised by the size of the ship. It was not meant to enter a planet's atmosphere. It was far too large, too heavy, too powerful. But humanity had no choice. If the Vulcan were escalating the fight, then the humans would escalate it as well. The warship's metal hull was covered in layers of reinforced plating, each section marked by old scars from battles across dozens of systems. Massive cannons lined its sides. Its front was shaped like a spearhead, designed to break through enemy fleets. The Keta defenders stared in awe. They had never seen anything like it. Lieutenant Mara Holt watched the descent with a mix of relief and determination. She could feel the vibrations running through the earth. She knew what it meant. Humanity was done holding the line. They were taking back the battlefield. She activated her comm. All units, prepare for coordinated assault. Our reinforcements are here. On the ground, the Vulcan elites tried to regroup. Their commanders shouted orders in their deep, growling language. Their heavy troopers formed shield walls. Their weapons glowed brighter as they prepared for another push, but the humans were ready. The warship opened its lower bays, revealing rows of heavy assault vehicles. Massive carriers dropped from the ship, engines flaring as they hit the ground. Their sides unfolded, releasing armored drones that rushed forward in large numbers. Behind them came Earth's mechanized division, giant walking machines with reinforced limbs and heavy cannons mounted on their shoulders. Their steps shook broken buildings as they joined the battle. The humans' offensive was finally beginning. Mara raised her weapon and pointed toward the Vulcan lines. Forward. Don't give them space. Her squad charged with her, followed by Kita defenders who felt hope now lighting their hearts. The battlefield erupted again in fire and thunder. The Verkin responded with brutal strength. Their heavy troops slammed their shields down, blocking the first wave of gunfire. Elite warriors charged forward in coordinated strikes, attacking the human front line with savage precision. Rylan, the elite commander, fought at the center of the formation. His blade sliced through Verkin armor. Sparks lit up around him every time he clashed with an enemy soldier. He fought like a man carved from iron, refusing to give even a single step. More Verkin descended from their dropships. Their eyes burned with cold determination. Their armor glistened from the heat. They were not slowing. They were matching humanity's escalation step for step. On the streets, human walkers fired heavy rounds that broke apart enemy lines. A Verkin heavy trooper tried to block one of the shots, but the impact shattered his shield and sent it crashing backward. Armored drones zipped between the rubble, firing beams that forced the enemy to retreat. But still, the Verkin pushed back. They fought like a species that knew the meaning of extinction and refused to accept it. As the battle raged, Mara moved through the shattered streets, supporting her squad and rescuing any civilians she found. Her armor was scratched and burned. Her breathing was heavy, but her determination never wavered. She spotted a group of Verkin elites charging toward a wounded Kaitai officer. Without hesitation, she sprinted forward. Her rifle blasted the first two enemies. The third swung a glowing blade at her head, but she ducked, rolled, and fired a point-blank shot into its chest. The Kaitai officer stared at her with wide eyes. "You saved my life. Stay behind me," Mara replied. "We're not losing anyone today." Meanwhile, the enemy capital ship loomed larger in the sky. Its weapons flashed as it fought Earth's fleet. Human ships circled around it, firing non-stop, trying to weaken its shields. But every time they damaged a section, the Verkin repaired it with frightening speed. Commander Elias watched the fight from his command bridge, face tense. His ships were holding, but barely. His tactical officer shouted, "Sir, the Verkin are preparing another orbital strike." "Target?" Elias asked. "The surface. Our own units." Elias clenched his jaw. The Verkin were willing to destroy their own soldiers just to remove the humans. It showed how badly they wanted victory. "Bring the warship's main cannon online," Elias ordered. "We won't let them fire again." Back on the surface, humans and Verkin clashed in a brutal wave of close combat. Soldiers fought hand to hand. Blades met blades. Rifles fired point blank. The air filled with smoke and shouts. During the chaos, Rylan noticed something important. The Verkin were slowly shifting their formation to surround the human forces. They were trying to trap them. He opened comms. "All squads, the enemy is repositioning. They are trying to cut us off." Mara responded. "We have to break their line." Rylan looked at the massive Earth warship behind them. "We need the big guns." As if hearing him, the warship's underside opened. A giant cannon slowly extended outward, glowing with building energy. The air vibrated as it charged. The Verkin hesitated for a moment, sensing the change. Mara shouted, "Fall back from the center. Clear the firing path." Human squads sprinted away, dragging injured soldiers with them. Walkers pulled back. Drones scattered to the sides. The Verkin elites charged faster, hoping to stop the cannon from firing. They were too late. The warship released a blast of white energy that tore through the center of the battlefield. The shockwave blew Verkin soldiers off their feet. Their armor melted from the impact. Buildings crumbled under the force. The attack created a wide open gap through the Verkin line. Rylan saw the opportunity. "Push forward. Break their formation now." Humans surged into the opening. Kaitai defenders followed, shouting with renewed courage. The Verkin tried to close the gap, but the humans were already inside their formation, scattering them for the first time since the invasion began. The Verkin line broke, but even as victory seemed closer, new danger was rising. The shadow of the Verkin capital ship grew darker overhead. The real fight was only beginning. Smoke drifted across the shattered streets as human forces pushed deeper into the broken Verkin line. The enormous blast from the Earth warship had given them a window, but the window was closing fast. The Verkin were regrouping. Their roars echoed across the ruins. Their armor glowed again with rising heat. Their commanders barked orders in deep voices that shook the ground. Lieutenant Mara Holt ran ahead with her squad, stepping over rubble and fallen enemies. Her armor was scorched. Her visor flickered from damage, but her eyes stayed fixed on the path forward. Her team followed closely, breathing hard, but refusing to slow down. "We need to reach the inner sector before they form a new wall," she said. Her squad nodded. They trusted her more than they trusted the ground under their feet. Behind them, the massive Earth warship hovered like a floating fortress. Its engines rumbled like rolling thunder. It fired at incoming Vulcan ships, but new threats kept arriving from orbit. The Vulcan capital ship was still descending slowly, casting a huge shadow across the city. Its weapons glowed with preparing energy. Commander Elias watched the readings from the command bridge. His ship shook violently as enemy fire hit their shields again and again. "Status on the main cannon?" Elias asked. "Recharging," his tactical officer replied. "We will need several more minutes." Elias stared at the screen showing the descending capital ship. If that ship reached the city, the humans and Keta defenders would be crushed. The entire planet would fall soon after. "Focus all power to forward shields," he ordered. "We have to buy time for the ground teams below them." Ryland and his elite squad moved through the ruins, pushing toward the enemy's strongest position. They planned to take down the Vulcan command node, the place where enemy orders were being sent from. Without that node, the Vulcan coordination would weaken. Ryland sliced through a Vulcan elite warrior, blocking their path. The warrior's heavy armor resisted his blade for a moment, then cracked with a sharp spark. The creature fell. Ryland moved on. His squad followed with silent precision. Their armor dripped with dust and glowing fragments from enemy weapons. Their breathing was heavy, but their movements remained sharp. "Enemy command signal is straight ahead," one of the elite soldiers said. "But they are guarding it with heavy units." Ryland nodded. "Then we break through." The street leading to the command node was crushed and uneven. Fires burned on both sides. The sound of distant screaming machines echoed from above. The Vulcan had set up a defensive ring around the area. Heavy troopers, shield carriers, and elite warriors stood shoulder to shoulder in layered formation. Mara and her squad joined Ryland at the edge of the ruins. "One push," Mara said. "If we don't break through now, we never will," Ryland agreed. "We go together." Both squads prepared, spreading out and aiming their weapons. Walkers repositioned, drones swarmed overhead, and Keta defenders moved into supporting positions. The Vulcan commander stepped into view. His armor was darker than the others. His horns were carved with ancient symbols. He raised a massive weapon glowing white hot. His voice boomed across the battlefield like rolling thunder. The Vulcan roared in answer. Mara whispered, "Here they come." The battle exploded in an instant. Human walkers fired heavy shells that shook the street. Vulcan shields broke, but more took their place. Drones rained shots from above, forcing enemies to scatter. Ryland's elite squad charged forward, cutting through the front ranks with brutal efficiency. The Vulcan responded with terrifying strength. Heavy troopers slammed their shields into the ground, creating shock waves that knocked several drones out of the air. Elite Vulcan leaped forward with incredible speed, engaging humans in close combat. Mara found herself locked with a towering warrior whose armor burned like molten metal. She blocked a heavy strike that cracked the wall behind her. Sparks flew from her visor as she fired point-blank shots into the warrior's helmet. The warrior staggered. She didn't wait. She drove her blade into his throat, then pushed forward. Ryland's squad fought like a storm of steel and fire. Every swing of their weapons cut deep. Every shot punched through enemy armor. They moved as one, covering each other, striking with perfect timing. Still, the Vulcan were too many. A heavy trooper slammed its shield into the ground, sending a shockwave that threw 3 humans off their feet. Mara hit the ground hard, her armor denting. She groaned and forced herself up again. Ryland blocked 2 elite warriors at once, his arms shaking from the force. His visor cracked. His arm bled under the armor. He pushed back with a roar and fired a blast that sent 1 warrior flying. But the Vulcan commander was still waiting, near the center of the battlefield. The commander raised his massive weapon. Energy gathered around it, glowing dangerously bright. He aimed at the humans pushing forward. Ryland saw it. "Mara, take cover." But the commander fired. A beam of burning light ripped across the street. Walkers exploded. Drones fell from the sky like dying birds. Several human soldiers were thrown back, armor smoking. Mara's squad was scattered. Ryland was pushed into a wall, his armor cracking loudly. The Vulcan commander roared in triumph. But something in Mara snapped. She stood slowly, shaking, staring through the smoke at the towering commander. "We're not done," she muttered. She aimed her weapon. Ryland did the same. Their surviving soldiers took positions around them. Even the wounded lifted their guns. The commander prepared another beam before he could fire. The sky split with a blinding flash. The Earth warships' main cannon finally recharged and it fired straight at the descending Vulcan capital ship. The entire sky turned white. The shockwave sent tremors through the battlefield. Every soldier, human and Vulcan, looked up. The capital ship shields cracked. The humans watched with hope. The Vulcan watched with fear. Something massive was about to change. The sky glowed white as the Earth warship's main cannon struck the Vulcan capital ship. For a moment, everything froze. The battlefield stopped moving. Human soldiers, Vulcan warriors, HFY defenders, every living being looked upward as the shockwave rolled over the burning city. A deep cracking sound echoed across the sky. Like metal screaming, the Vulcan capital ship's massive shields flickered, then shattered in a burst of bright fragments. The impact tore through its outer armor, ripping open a long glowing wound across its hull. Flames burst out. Sections of the ship broke apart. The humans let out a roar of hope. The Vulcan let out a roar of rage. The capital ship remained in the air, but it was wounded, unstable, drifting off its descent path. Smoke spiraled from its engines. Explosions rippled across its surface. Commander Elias gripped the edge of the command console. His heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. Direct all fire on the damaged section. Do not let them recover. Yes, sir. His crew shouted. The fleet shifted position. Every human ship aimed at the glowing wound. Cannons charged. Missiles locked on. The black void lit up again as humanity fired everything they had. The Vulcan ship fired back wild, uncontrolled shots that hit nothing but empty space. This was humanity's moment. Back on the surface, the blast from above shook the battlefield. Dust rolled over the streets. The Vulcan commander staggered, losing his balance for the first time. His glowing weapon dimmed. Mara lifted her head slowly. Her visor cracked, but her eyes blazing with determination. They're breaking, she whispered. Ryland stepped beside her, wiping blood from his jaw. Then we finish this. The Vulcan commander lifted his weapon again, trying to rally his troops. But his soldiers looked uncertain now. Their capital ship, their symbol of power, was burning above them. Mara raised her rifle. All units, push forward. Her voice echoed through human comms. The humans surged ahead with renewed strength. Walker stomped into the street again, limping but ready for one last fight. Drones rose into the sky, creating a wall of bright light. Tanks fired into the Vulcan formations, breaking their last line of defense. The Vulcan elites roared and tried to hold the line. They fought with desperate strength, their armor glowing brighter from overheating. But the humans were stronger now. The humans had hope, and hope was a weapon all its own. Ryland charged the Vulcan commander directly. Their weapons clashed with a burst of sparks. The commander swung with a rage that shook the ground, but Ryland blocked every strike, refusing to fall. You're finished, Ryland growled. The commander roared and slammed his weapon down. Ryland dodged, rolled, and struck upward, his blade piercing a weak point in the commander's armor. The Vulcan leader stumbled. Mara saw her moment. She sprinted forward, firing 3 quick shots into the commander's exposed chest. The heavy warrior staggered backward, dropping his glowing weapon. Sparks burst from his armor. A final desperate roar shook the air. Then he fell. The Vulcan lines collapsed. Their morale shattered. Their movements faltered. They stepped back in confusion as the humans closed in from all sides. On the ground, HFY defenders shouted with sudden courage. They pushed forward beside humanity. Their small weapons fired in rapid bursts. Their brave voices echoed across the ruined city. Above them, the Vulcan capital ship broke apart completely. The explosions chained across its hull like a line of falling stars. The engine's overload turned into a massive burst of light that ripped through the entire ship. Commander Elias watched it happen, his eyes wide with relief. They're done, he whispered. The capital ship split into 2 giant burning pieces. They drifted apart, then began falling toward the far side of the planet. Human ships pulled away to avoid the debris. The Vulcan fleet broke formation and jumped out of the system in scattered panic. They were no longer an army, only survivors fleeing from humanity's fury. On the surface, the last of the Vulcan soldiers dropped their weapons. Some fled into the ruins, but most simply collapsed in exhaustion or shock. The battle was over. Mara slowly lowered her rifle. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. The smoke around her cleared just enough to show the ruins of the city. Fires burned. Buildings had fallen. The air smelled of metal, dust, and victory. Ryland walked beside her, leaning slightly from his injuries. We did it. We all did, Mara said, looking at the HFY defenders who stood around them. Together, one of the HFY leaders, his armor broken and his face covered in grime, stepped forward. He placed his hand over his chest and bowed. "You saved our people," he said softly. "No one else could have stood against them. No one else would have answered our call so fast." Mara nodded. "When someone calls for help, humans show up," Rylan added. "That's what makes us Deathworlders. Not our strength, not our weapons, our will." The Keitai leader smiled weakly. "Then today, your will saved a world." Around them, human soldiers checked on the wounded and helped civilians out of the rubble. Drones scanned for remaining danger. Walkers powered down with long mechanical sighs. The giant Earth warship hovered above them like a guardian watching over its people. "Commander." Elias sent a voice transmission to the entire planet. "This is Commander Elias Ward. The Verkan assault has been defeated. Their fleet is in retreat. The Keitai system is secure." Cheers erupted across the city. Even wounded soldiers raised their hands in triumph. Mara removed her helmet and took a deep breath of the dusty air. Tired, sore, bruised, but alive. She looked at the sky where bright wreckage still burned. "We won," she whispered. Rylan nodded. "And they'll remember this." She glanced at him. "The Verkan?" "No," he said. "The galaxy, because once again, when the universe called for help, humanity answered. And the Deathworlders arrived.